when I think about you and Supercoach, what I really go back to is way back when you were in Living from the Inside Out. And I think that was when you were first getting introduced to this whole understanding. Is that right?
Yeah. I remember you posted a comment about anybody who doesn't actually feel comfortable making comments on Living from the Inside Out. If you want to have a chat or if you want to know anything. And that was really good because that was me. That was me. I didn't talk very much. I used to love reading this stuff, and I used to have a comment here and there, but I used to refrain, I think, from making any statuses of where I was. I think I was a bit nervous because everybody else seemed to be really very good at saying, very good at saying how they felt, very poetic, and I did have a bit of a thing about that at the time. So when I spoke to you, and I was talking to you about reading the book in The Inside Out Revolution, right? And one of the first things I remember that really helped me was when you said, you have to go back and read it again, and then you have to go back and read it again, and then it'll really begin to take shape. Because I thought at the end of the first time I read it, I thought, that's really interesting. I really resonate with that. And then what's next? Or so what? Or it's a bit like this, or it's a bit like that. So then since then I've realised that that's a journey everyone seems to go through. But it was really good, really nice of you to be able to point that out, because that made it much more made much more sense to go back to it. And when I did go back to it, it was amazing. It really, things did really begin to slot into place. I guess the thing about Supercoach Academy from the outset, really, because Supercoach Academy, the Facebook group, started quite a way before the actual first live event, didn't it, in Santa Monica? So there was a chance for people to get to know each other, a chance for people to comment on each other's stories, a chance to be able to find out about people. And so by the time we converged in Santa Monica in January, was it January? The most amazing thing for me was walking in the room with 75 people and being hugged. Just being hugged and feeling that sense of love in the room was amazing. I'd never ever felt anything like that before. It was just so powerful. And that sense of love and togetherness, oneness, carried on through the weekend. And I had a really big insight for me, which has carried on since. It's just been developing ever since. I'd always assumed that in order to what I liked and what I felt I lacked in my life was connection. Was actually connecting to people on a really deep level. And I'd assumed that I had to be in the right place at the right time to find that connection. So for instance, being a coach, when you create a connection being a coach, it's an awesome feeling. It really is an awesome feeling. And I'm a musician as well, so I know when I'm on stage and you get that flow going, and you find yourself doing things that you didn't think you could do, that also, you know, it is that connection thing as well. But I had got it in my head that this was outside of me. I got it in my head that this is something that I had to chase. You know, I had to be in that coaching situation. I had to be on stage in order to. So my logical feeling of that was that I had to do more of both, you know, in order to feel that connection. Went to bed one night while I was on the first Supercoach Academy at 4 o'clock in the morning. Bang, you know, this sort of realization came to me, and I went and had a walk on the seafront and watched the sun come up, and I had this amazing realization that the connection is not outside of me. It's not something that I can chase. It's inside of me all the time. It is me. That connection is me, and it's everybody else. Do you know, I mean, lots of amazing things happened that day, but the rest of that weekend, I was just so much in that connection, just knowing that it was me, you know, knowing that it was in there. I didn't have to look for it. It was there automatically. It changed the relationship I had with people. And I thought, you know, this is Supercoach Academy. It's fantastic. It's awesome. It's full of love, and it's, you know, amazing. And I felt I changed, and then I went back on the plane, and would you know, I got off the plane and it carried on. You know, I got in the taxi. The taxi driver for an hour and a half was telling me about his life, about his kids, about his wife, about his girlfriend. he was, you know, and I got home, I went to the supermarket, there's the girl behind the checkout desk doing exactly the same thing. There was this connection was carrying on. Now, it was in my head, I know, it was my thinking, but before I had that realization, I used to work so hard to try and gauge, you know, whether people liked me, whether they didn't like me, whether they were interested in what I was saying, whether there's all this thinking that was going on in my head when I was talking to people.
Well, wouldn't you say that the connection that you made with the taxi driver and the checkout woman and all those connections that you made after Supercoach were the absence of thinking?
Yeah. Exactly. And that's what the realization was, is that, you know, when I was talking to people, I had all this stuff going on in my head, all of it, all the time. And apart from the effect it was having on me, you know, people were picking up on it, you know, and it was preventing that connection. It was preventing that true, you know, basic relationship that we all have without the thinking. I know that now, but but that was the most awesome thing for me, was that's what it felt like. It felt like I was a different person. It felt like I came back from Santa Monica a different person, you know. People seemed to gravitate towards me instead of away from me, you know. How awesome is that?
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And do you remember when we went to Thrive, and Michael asked us each what we wanted to look at while we were there? Mm-hmm. And my thing was transformative presence. This was a phrase that I had recently heard a number of times, and I was like, wow, what is that about? Right. And that's what you're describing. So in other words, something changed inside of you, or maybe it was always there, but some thinking dropped so that you could experience that more.
Yeah.
And your presence in the taxi cab, in the supermarket, with your friends, with your family, wherever, was something transformative for other people.
I think so. I do. I think so. And that's what a gift that has been. What a gift that has been.
Anything else you'd like to share, or just discuss or ask or anything?
I'd never considered myself a creative person, even though I'm a musician and stuff. I'd never considered myself. And I'm guessing, I think since being given permission and having an understanding of how creativity works, that's made a huge difference to me. Knowing that I'm creating all the time, knowing that everything I do is creating, just makes nonsense of that label of not being creative, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm doing stuff now that I haven't done for years, or I've never done, you know. I'm writing songs now, and I did somebody a recording the other day, and that's quite a big thing. That piece about us being creative all the time was big for me.
Mm-hmm.
That was big for me, because all of a sudden I've got this permission to do whatever I want, and doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be for anybody else. It can just be for me. Yeah, that's given my life a new facet, I think.
It goes back to one of Michael's favorite phrases, which is infinite human potential.
Yeah.
And it sounds great, but when you actually experience it, it's really powerful.
It is. It is. Because it makes me think, well, what else can I do? What else have I always told myself I'm rubbish at? You know, it gives you so much freedom and so much energy. You know, it's sort of, it's really exciting. I can feel it now. I feel really excited now. Yeah.